On January 13, 2022, UCLA Extension student, 24-year-old Brianna Kupfer was fatally stabbed while working alone inside a Los Angeles, California luxury furniture store. She was attacked inside Croft House in Hancock Park just before 2 p.m. on that day. Brianna was one of 4 children. She attended Brentwood High School, where she was a member of various sports teams, and she was captain of the cheerleading team. She graduated from the University of Miami with a degree in public relations. Brianna grew up and was building her career in Los Angeles. She was studying architectural design and worked as a design consultant at Croft House. She was a smart, funny, driven, and kind soul who only wanted to better herself and her community daily. Although she was shy sometimes, she lit up any room she was in and strove to elevate everyone she met so they could be better versions of themselves. She loved her family and friends deeply and made every day better simply by just being there. According to prosecutors and LAPD detectives, Brianna had texted a friend at about 1:36 p.m. on the 13th to say she felt uncomfortable about a person that was in the store. She said she was getting a bad vibe from him. Her friend did not respond to the text right away. Surveillance footage shows that the suspect was in the store for several minutes before he attacked Brianna. He then knifed her before fleeing through the back door and calmly walked northbound in the alley and then around the neighborhood. About 20 minutes later, a customer found Brianna on the floor covered in blood, lifeless. Another surveillance video recorded the suspect shopping at a nearby 7-Eleven store 30 minutes after Brianna's life was ended. The perpetrator left the knife he used behind at the scene, along with a knife sheath and an audio recorder covered in DNA that would implicate him in the slaying. The blade of the knife was bent. The suspect was described as a tall man with braided hair. He was wearing a dark hooded sweatshirt, dark pants, and black tennis shoes. He also had a white painter's N95 mask on his face and sunglasses. The police warned that he should be considered armed and dangerous. After the suspect was identified, an extensive search began throughout the Southern California region. The surveillance videos showing the suspect were widely shared with the news media and the public. The Los Angeles City Council offered a $50,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. Brianna's relatives and other private groups increased the reward to $250,000. Signs were made with the suspect's photo so that anyone who saw him could call 911. A veteran case detective said, "The $250,000 reward is the largest he has ever seen." The suspect used a knife in the stabbing that took Brianna's life. He did not take anything from the store. The detective said he also went inside other nearby businesses, but he left because there was more than one person at those other locations. Lieutenant John Radke of the LAPD said, "Someone out there knows this man, and someone knows what he did." The detectives have since determined the attack was random and believe the suspect to be a homeless man. The autopsy results showed that Brianna has suffered 46 sharp force injuries. 26 were stab wounds, and the other 20 were incised wounds. She suffered 11 stabs to the chest, 2 in her abdomen, 1 to her pelvis, 2 on her right arm, 5 on her left arm, 2 on her right leg, and 3 on her left leg. All the stab wounds were said to be about 5 inches deep. 6 days later, on January 19th, the suspect, Sean Laval Smith, who was 31 years old at the time of the attack on Brianna, was arrested by Pasadena police. They received a tip that the suspect had been spotted sitting on a bus bench in downtown Pasadena. The tip came because of the circulated photo and the reward that was offered. He was handed over into LAPD's custody, and he was being held on $2 million bail. Sean was charged with slaying. Criminal proceedings in the case were put on hold while prosecutors waited for the results of a mental health evaluation, which was requested by the defense lawyers. Sean has a lengthy criminal record. It includes gun charges, and he was previously accused of attacking a police officer in South Carolina's Charleston County. In April 2010, Sean was arrested and charged with breach of trust in Charleston, South Carolina. 3 years later, in June 2013, Sean was charged with simple possession of marijuana in Charleston. Another 3 years later, in March 2016, Sean was arrested for assaulting a police officer in Charleston, which he pleaded guilty for in 2018. He was sentenced to time served. In March 2019, Sean was arrested and charged with entering a premises after a warning in Charleston. 3 months later that same year, in June, Sean was arrested on a bench warrant and charged with entering a premises after receiving a warning. Also in 2019 in November, Sean was charged with discharge of a flare gun into a moving vehicle with a child inside. In October 2020, Sean was arrested with a misdemeanor charge in Covina, California. In January 2021, Sean allegedly vandalized a car in Daly City, California. When the officers arrested him, he resisted and bit one of them. He was charged in San Mateo County with assault on a police officer and resisting arrest. He subsequently pleaded no contest to one felony charge of resisting arrest. In addition to an 8-month jail sentence, Sean was ordered to serve 2 years of probation. He only served 133 days in jail and was released but failed twice to report to his probation officer, and his probation was revoked. A bench warrant was issued for his arrest, but he vanished. At the time of the attack on Brianna, Sean was out on bond pending a trial in South Carolina for the November 2019 case. Sean wanted to represent himself at his slaying trial, but Judge Mildred Escobedo revoked his right to act as his own attorney at a hearing in June 2023 for misconduct. Sean was represented by defense attorney Robert Haberer. The trial started on August 29, 2024, in the Los Angeles County Superior Court. Los Angeles County Deputy Attorney Habib Balian was in charge of the case. Deputy Attorney Balian said in opening statements that Sean posed as a client to gain Brianna's trust and then stabbed her. The prosecutor presented the audio of Sean saying he hated women. Sean's attorney opted not to make an opening statement. On September 10, 2024, the jury found Sean guilty of both charges in relation to the slaying of Brianna. Sean, who was ordered to wear a spit mask due to past outbursts in court, sat quietly through the prosecution's presentation. At times, he stared at the family, wrote notes on a pad, and showed little reaction to disturbing crime scene photos or the sound of a voice coming out of the recorder saying, "It's over," repeatedly, on which Brianna is heard whimpering, "I wanted to help you." The key to the conviction was the audio recording on the device they found at the crime scene that belonged to Sean. It has provided horrific evidence of the attack. On the recording, a man can be heard telling a woman that he is not going to hurt her and ordering her to just get down on the floor. The woman screams, and the man says, "It's over, it's over, it's over, it's over." The jurors agreed with Balian's argument that there was overwhelming evidence that the slaying was premeditated and convicted Sean on the most serious charge of first-degree slaying and the special circumstance allegation, as well as the knife allegation. LA County District Attorney George Gaskin said in a statement after the verdict, "Brianna Kupfer was a promising young woman whose life was tragically taken far too soon. I thank the jury for their thoughtful deliberation and dedication in finding the defendant guilty." The sanity phase of the trial is set to begin October 2, 2024. Sean could receive a sentence of life without the possibility of parole if the judge determines he was sane at the time of the crime. Sean, who pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, has waived a jury trial for this phase. On October 2, 2024, Sean Laval Smith was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Eliza Fletcher was slain in September 2022 when she was out for her morning run in Memphis. Eliza was a beloved daughter, wife, mother of 2, kindergarten teacher at St. Mary's Episcopal School, and a billionaire heiress. She was an heiress to Orgill Incorporated, a hardware supply company her grandfather, Joseph Orgill III, helped build. What began as a small family business in 1847 evolved into one of the nation's largest privately held firms, generating over $3 billion in revenue annually. On September 2, 2022, Eliza went out for a morning run, and when she didn't return home, her husband called the police. According to surveillance footage obtained, Eliza was chased by a man, and then she was forced into a dark-colored SUV near the University of Memphis at approximately 4:20 a.m., near Central Avenue and Zach Curlin Street. The SUV remained parked for 4 minutes before it was driven away. Through the surveillance video and forensic evidence, DNA recovered from a pair of sandals found near the site of the kidnapping helped investigators to identify the perpetrator. Cleotha Abston was arrested the following day after the police found the vehicle near his residence. He attempted to flee but was taken into custody. Eliza's body was found 3 days later, about 7 miles from where she was last seen on the surveillance video during the kidnapping, with a gunshot wound to her head. She had also sustained injuries to her right leg and had jaw fractures. Abston previously served 20 years in prison for kidnapping a Memphis attorney and was sentenced to 80 years in a separate 2021 assault case on May 17, 2024. Abston faced multiple charges in the case of Eliza, including first-degree slaying, aggravated kidnapping, and tampering with evidence. On October 28, 2024, Abston pleaded guilty. He lowered his head when speaking to the judge, but showed no reaction after pleading guilty. Abston was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. District Attorney Steve Mulroy advised Abston to accept the plea deal due to overwhelming evidence against him. A jury likely would have sentenced Abston to execution. Attorney Mulroy said, "I want us today to acknowledge and celebrate the life of Eliza Fletcher, who was tragically kidnapped and slain in a senseless act of random predatory violence. Today's agreement achieves finality for the family. The defendant gives up his right to appeal, so there won't be years and decades of appeals. It also helps the community because this dangerous person will never again walk our streets. He will lose his life in prison." According to Attorney Mulroy, Eliza's demise, though a tragedy, brought the community together. He said, "This case triggered an unprecedented outpouring of community concern and support, rippling nationwide and even globally. It was my first week on the job. I remember meeting with the family that first weekend when we were all still praying for her safe return. The family has shown great resilience and grace." He also thanked law enforcement members, the trial team, and others who worked on the case before adding a heartfelt message for Eliza's family, and the family itself, who have shown extraordinary courage and compassion throughout this ordeal. During Abston's sentencing, Attorney Mulroy read a statement the victim's family prepared. Eliza's loved ones wrote, "We have no idea what happened to you to turn you into someone so filled with a desire to hurt people. Whatever it was, it does not excuse or explain what you have done. You have changed our lives forever, and nothing will ever be the same. Your actions were evil. There is no other word for it. You ended the life of Liza, even though she did nothing to deserve it. She did not hurt you. In fact, she would have been the first to help if you needed it." In another statement, Eliza's family wrote, "No legal resolution and no sentence can diminish the anguish of Liza's slaying. We accept the outcome that her perpetrator has pled guilty to all charges, will wake up in prison for the rest of his life, and cannot harm anyone else. We are very grateful for the determination and professionalism of law enforcement and the district attorney's office." Runners in Memphis and several other cities held early morning running events in her honor a week after she was kidnapped, a tradition that has continued in the city on the anniversary of her kidnapping. Aranda Briones went missing in January 2019 in California, her life taken by someone she thought of as a friend. 16-year-old Aranda attended Moreno Valley High School. She was a troubled youth whose parents were absent, and she had been adopted by her grandfather, Carl Horst Scott, and resided with him from age 3. On the morning of November 7, 2017, she decided to skip classes and hang out with friends at a local park. The group fled the area after they were spotted by a sheriff's school resource officer. One of her friends, Owen Schuyler Shover, was carrying a handgun. He then gave the weapon to Aranda and told her to hide it. She panicked and tossed the handgun into a drainage canal. The school resource officer witnessed her tossing the weapon and detained her. During questioning, she admitted to the school administrators and authorities that the handgun belonged to Owen. Both students were expelled in February 2018 over the incident. On January 13, 2019, Aranda got into Owen's car with him, and that was the last time she was seen by 2 of her friends. Owen texted Aranda the day before, inviting her to join him while he made illegal substance deliveries and robbed substance dealers. Within an hour of getting into the car, Aranda posted several pictures of herself and Owen together on social media. She was elated to be with her homie, who let her do some of the driving. She was later reported missing by her family. During the ensuing investigation, the police found Aranda's blood in the trunk of Owen's vehicle, as well as evidence of his attempts to purchase a weapon. They also found a Facebook message Owen sent to his brother Gary saying, "Be ready for tonight. Get shovels and lighter fluid ready." After the slaying, authorities alleges that Owen picked up his brother and drove into the San Bernardino Mountains. In August 2024, Owen was found guilty of taking the life of Aranda. Law enforcement personnel and volunteer groups have searched the mountains where they believe Aranda's remains may have been disposed, but no trace of her has ever been found. Riverside County District Attorney Mike Hestron said the following: "On the day of his conviction, he spoke to his grandfather from jail, wondering whether he should get a trophy for being a convicted perpetrator. He has shown no remorse." On October 25th, 23-year-old Owen, the man who blamed his former classmate for getting him expelled from school and then took her life, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Both teens carried on with their respective educations at other schools, but Owen remained incensed about his expulsion and what he perceived as Aranda's betrayal. Gary pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact in March 2024 and was sentenced to 12 months probation. At the sentencing of Owen, Aranda's friend described the teen as a kind spirit and was always joyful, even in the bad moments. Riverside County Superior Court Judge Timothy J. Hollenhorst told Owen the following during the sentencing: "There are many questions left unanswered, none more than where is Aranda? Mr. Shover, from what I can tell about you, it appears that you are not capable of feeling remorse. So I do not intend to lecture you on how devastating your actions were in this case. However, there is no question in this court's mind that you are the face of pure evil." 33-year-old Go Crazy rapper Jeffrey Williams, better known as Young Thug, runs the Young Stoner Life record label that he started in 2016. He is an award-winning rapper and pioneer of the melodic trap sound, known for his unique mumble-like delivery and taste for pop production sensibilities. The hip-hop star has earned 3 #1 albums on the Billboard 200 chart: 2019's So Much Fun, 2021's Punk, and the 2021 compilation album, Young Stoner Life, Slime Language 2. He's worked with Drake, Future, Travis Scott, and others, and had genre-defying crossover with collaborations like the #1 hit, Havana, his team-up with Camila Cabello, and Childish Gambino's This Is America, which became the first rap song to win Song of the Year at the 2019 Grammys. He has also gained a reputation as a fashion icon, as he frequently wears garments that defy gender stereotypes, like a dress on the cover of his mixtape Jeffrey. He was first indicted in May 2022, along with 27 others, including rapper Gunna, of violating Georgia's Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. The group is accused of taking part in an alleged street gang, Young Slime Life, or YSL, named similarly to the chart-topping artist's label. The members are accused of committing several crimes, including slaying, armed robbery, dealing with illegal substances, and carjacking. A second indictment was brought forth in August 2022, bringing 6 more felony charges against Young Thug. Of the 65 total counts against the defendants, which span between the time of 2013 and 2022, Young Thug is charged with 8. Among the most serious charges in the case, he was accused of being connected to the slaying of Donovan Thomas Jr., a rival gang member who lost his life in a January 2015 drive-by shooting. The prosecutors allege that Young Thug rented the vehicle that was used in the shooting. He has been in custody since 2022, although he has pleaded not guilty and denied all of the charges. In November 2023, the trial started after the jury selection process took more than a year. In a controversial decision made on November 9th, Judge Glanville ruled that rap lyrics could be used as evidence in the case. The judge said in court that prosecutors could use 17 specific sets of lyrics as evidence, as long as they argue their relation to the crimes of the accused. The songs being examined include Just How It Is and Mob Ties, as they relate to the existence of the YSL gang, the defendants' involvement in the alleged criminal conspiracy, and their mind state regarding the alleged crimes. On October 31st, 2024, Young Thug pleaded guilty. Before his sentencing, he apologized to his family, his managers, the courtroom deputies, and really everybody that got something to do with this situation, for the time his case ate up. He told the judge the following, promising her that he'd never be in this type of situation again. "I hope that you allow me to go home today and just trust in me to just do the right thing. I've learned from my mistakes, you know. I come from nothing, and I've made something, and I didn't take full advantage of it. I'm sorry." He also told her that he understands his impact on people, and said that he also has tried to give back, putting millions of dollars back into his community. Young Thug was then sentenced to time served and 15 years of probation, ending his nearly year-long racketeering trial in Atlanta, the longest criminal trial in Georgia's history. Judge Paige Reese Whitaker sentenced Young Thug to 40 years, but commuted to time served and probation. He was released from custody. If he violates his probation, he could serve 20 years, per the judge's ruling. He was sentenced after he entered into a plea deal with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. If he was convicted at trial, he could have faced a maximum of 120 years in prison. As a part of the deal, Young Thug pleaded guilty to several charges, including 3 illegal substance charges and 2 gun charges and 1 gang charge. He also pleaded no contest, meaning that he accepted the conviction but did not admit guilt in the crimes, to racketeering conspiracy and participation in a criminal street gang in a leadership role. He has to leave the metro Atlanta area and stay away for the first 10 years of his probation. Some exceptions allow him to return for weddings, funerals, graduations, or a serious illness of family members. He can arrive 24 hours before the event and must leave within 48 hours after. But he must also return to the Atlanta area 4 times during each year of his probation to make an anti-gang, anti-gun violence presentation at a grade school, middle school or high school, or at an organization like the Boys and Girls Club. Those visits can count toward the 100 hours of community service he must complete during each year of his probation. He also cannot knowingly have contact with any member of a criminal street gang. The judge said that includes other people named in the indictment, with the exception of his brother and the rapper Gunna, with whom he has contractual obligations. He also can't contact the victims in the case or their families, may not own a gun, must not use substances other than those prescribed to him, must submit to random substance tests, and must allow searches of himself and his property and electronics. This case has also been marked with controversy and drama, including past judges being recused from the case, and the rapper's attorney, Brian Steele, being charged with contempt of court. 3 of Young Thug's co-defendants, Quamarvius Nichols, Marquavius Huey, and Rodalius Ryan, also took plea deals. Young Thug and his girlfriend, Mariah the Scientist, whose birth name is Mariah Amani Buckles, have started dating in October 2021. She was studying biology at St. John's University when she decided to leave school to pursue a career in music instead. In the process, she reached out to Young Thug in March 2021 to collaborate on a song, and the two began dating 6 months later. Mariah stood by him after he was arrested. When he was released on October 31st, she shared a few words. "This is more than what we prayed for. We are so grateful. This is the greatest opportunity we've ever been presented with." On December 9th, 2023, the police were called to a townhouse in Liberty Township, Ohio, for a report of an infant being shot around 1:50 a.m. At the scene, the officers found the infant suffering from a gunshot wound to the head. She was taken to UC Westchester Hospital, where she was listed in critical condition. The shooter was the little 5-month-old girl, Myra's grandmother, Mia Harris. She broke down a locked bedroom door after firing a handgun through the bedroom door multiple times, shooting at several family members before intentionally shooting Myra at close range while laying on the bed. After the shooting, the authorities said that Harris fled the area and was later arrested without incident. When deputies asked her why she shot her granddaughter, they said Harris replied, "That was not my grandbaby. Sorry, not sorry." In early October 2024, 43-year-old Mia Harris pleaded guilty, and on October 29th, she was sentenced to 9 to 12 years in prison. In exchange for her plea, 3 other counts of felonious assault and 1 count of firing a weapon into a habitation were dropped. Destiny Buffington, Myra's mother and Harris's daughter-in-law, said during sentencing, "What you did will never go away. She will never have a grandma again. You took that from her. You took me having a mother-in-law. You took everything away from me. I had to plead for my life, and then you shot my daughter in front of me. That will never go away. And I stand here today 10 times stronger than the woman I was a year ago." Destiny said her daughter, who spent 65 days in the hospital, will have seizures and special needs for the rest of her life. Myra has had 3 surgeries and will have another in 2025. Defense attorneys argued in court that the grandmother snapped due to a mental health episode. Her attorney said, "Call it a breakdown, call it a mental breakdown. She just snapped." Prosecutors say 3 doctors evaluated Harris, and it's true her mental health was a concern, but prosecutors say 2 doctors found she didn't have a severe mental health condition. They believe it was substance abuse that caused her to shoot her granddaughter that night. 55-year-old Jay Johnston is an actor and writer who starred in Bob's Burgers, Anchorman, and Arrested Development. On January 6, 2021, Johnston joined a mob of rioters as they gathered at the Lower West Plaza of the U.S. Capitol building in an area known as the Tunnel, the site where the most violent attacks against law enforcement were carried out by the rioters. At around 2 p.m. that day, Johnston was seen filming the events on his cell phone as he stood with the crowd behind a row of police barricades. After 40 minutes, as the rioters removed the barricades, he made his way to the U.S. Capitol building through the Lower West Terrace and onto the inaugural stage. Johnston then made it past the rioters and reached the entrance to the tunnel at approximately 3:03 p.m., where he made a series of hand gestures, including pounding his fists together and pointing, appearing to encourage rioters to enter the tunnel. Johnston exited the tunnel at around 3:13 p.m. on June 7, 2023. Johnston was arrested and charged in connection with the riots. At the time, he faced several other misdemeanors, including unlawful trespassing and attempting to disrupt government business. In July 2024, he pleaded guilty to 1 felony count of civil disorder for obstructing the police during the attacks. On October 28th, he was sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in jail. He was also sentenced to 24 months of supervised release and ordered to pay $2,000 in restitution. Johnston's attorney, Stanley Woodward, wrote in a court memo ahead of his sentencing that his involvement in the riots had been overstated by the government because he is an acclaimed Hollywood actor, and that he had been blacklisted by Hollywood. He asked that Johnston's sentence be reduced to 4 to 10 months. However, the prosecutors argued in court that Johnston showed a lack of remorse over his actions as a photo was shared of him, allegedly dressed as January 6th rioter Jacob QAnon Shaman Chansley at a Halloween party in 2023. Before his sentence, Jay Johnston briefly told the court that his role in the attacks was reprehensible.